Thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I am here as always with my wonderful co-host, Karen Swim of Solo PR Pro. How are you today, Karen?
Hello, Michelle. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Can't complain. I have this strange fogginess, but I think it's just, we're in the pandemic era of life, so I'm just going to keep rolling.
Yeah.
Regardless.
I know. I do not, which I'm so thankful for, and I got a good night's sleep. And,
good.
For our viewers on the live stream, as you know, there was a big moment in our culture yesterday for those who may be watching the replay. And we hope that there are people watching the replay or listening to the podcast on Monday. Yes. We are recording this on April 21st, 2021. I think I keep writing 2020. Anyway, and it's the day after the verdict in the George Floyd trial. So just to kind of set that in context for anybody who might be catching it at different times, as we know, our audience, we provide this content so that you can, view it or listen at your leisure. So there you have it. There's our framework today.
Yeah. So today's title of our show is Read the Room, because it's a given, isn't it? With anything that is, a cultural moment, a moment where, all eyes are on a result. And, I'm of two minds. It's like, don't always feel like you have to say something. And if you're not sure it's going to ping correctly, don't. Specifically, we were looking at and talking about last night in the Solo PR Pro group about the Oakland Raiders response to the verdict. And, there's been a lot of discussion about that. I mean, they just posted on its own, I Can Breathe, without any context. So, given that, well, Oakland, are you in this thing? Like, why are you? It just felt off, and I wasn't alone in that. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's put this in context too, after we both did some reading and sort of found out. So I Can't Breathe. And that particular line was used in sort of an anti Black Lives Matter moment in 2020.
Yes.
So this is where, communicators and more importantly, having a diversity of voices involved in your PR really becomes critical, because it seems like a benign statement. Mr. Davis, I keep wanting to say Al Davis because that's the Davis that I know, but I believe it was Greg Davis, said it was his tweet and he took accountability for it. And he, according to, media reports, was not referring to the anti-Black Lives Matter movement, but something that George Floyd's brother uttered after the trial.
Right.
And this is where it becomes so critical. If that were in fact true, rather than just sharing that statement, which was really a quote, share the quote, attribute it to the brother, because if that was framed, so they did the black and white Raiders colors, but it also has really began to become associated with performative posting.
Yes.
However, if he had simply put quotes around that and attributed that statement to the brother, and then you can just say something to the family, it would have been entirely appropriate. So see how just that little tweak can take something from inflammatory to really being appropriate.
Yes, it's that absence of being crystal clear in your intention, and just dropping a graphic in there with no explanation, no messaging. What are we as the recipients of that message supposed to do with that, especially in something that is, an incredibly sensitive time? Clearly if they're saying something, they mean to take a position. That's their intent. So you would want to be incredibly careful, not fearful. You know, people say, oh, don't be afraid to say things. No, I'm not saying fearful, just careful. Do it with care and the compassion and of your intention. And and then you could be avoiding all this backlash. People could just read it, you know, either not in agreement or and move on. So yes, I mean, case
Yeah.
in point, you know, the NBA released a lovely statement. I saw some individual teams. I forget which specific team I saw last night. You know, but these were entities that had already, you know, participated in the activities of this last year in the movement to, you know, continue to try and make things right and better.
Yeah.
So, which, you know, hey, we welcome the Raiders to continue to do that if they would, you know,
Well, I
take
think,
our advice.
for sports teams to be involved in these conversations is particularly important because
Mhm.
sports figures have played a critical role in the
Yes.
social justice movement, and it does
Mhm.
impact a lot of the players. So,
Yes.
I mean, there's that question that we as communicators have to help our clients to navigate. And that first question is, you know, when these things happen, should we say anything?
Correct.
And, you know, in this case, it was entirely appropriate to be a part of the conversation. They just chose to
Mhm.
join it in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So how do you make that decision? I think that you know, there are plenty of decision grids out there. If you're a solo PR pro, we have a list of questions that we will share to the group. But one of the key questions is, does this impact not only our company, but our community, the community that we serve? If it does not, that's, you know, one, you know, answer that question first, because that's really important.
Mhm.
Um, is this a conversation that you can actually add value to? So it impacts your audience, and now you can add value, because you do want to steer clear of saying things just to say things. And when
100%.
I think about the Raiders post, I think that he felt compelled, like, I'm supposed to say something because, you know, this has been a big issue for my players. So you said something because you felt compelled to say something, but you didn't really think it through. More
Mhm.
importantly, if it's true that he posted that on his own, you did so without counsel, who could have advised you on kind of the minefield that you were stepping into.
Right. I was thinking that very thing of being the person on his comms team, seeing that coming through the thread, going, "No." You know, I rue the day that I showed you how to use Canva.
You know,
Yeah,
we've
it
seen this
happens.
happen. There was a Tesla crash. I
Yes.
believe it was last weekend, and forgive
Mhm.
me but it was a recent crash, driverless car, and Elon Musk, as many of our audience knows, ditched his entire PR team because he felt like he was the master of Twitter, and that's all he needed, and he could do his
Mhm.
own
Mhm.
press. So
Yeah.
after this crash, rather than if he was going to say something, then the first thing out of his fingers to type should have been how sorry he was for the loss of life. People died. Instead, he responded with statistics about how there are only X amount of crashes in every million. So it completely minimized that when you are the family member who has been hit by a driverless Tesla car, you could give a flying fig
Yeah.
about how few people have died.
Yeah.
All that you know is that you have lost someone that you care about in a car accident with a Tesla car that was driven by no one.
Yeah.
That's not okay. It's not it's so tone deaf that I have no words for my level of disgust.
No.
Um, Elon Musk is clearly a brilliant man, but he also says some very stupid things because he's so wrapped up in his brilliance and
Yes.
accustomed to being the smartest dude in the room that he is missing that opportunity to read the room and to have
Yes.
compassion for your audience. And I, you know, a lot of brands do suffer that same myopic vision out of their own arrogance. And so, you know, as communicators, sometimes those are our clients, and
Yeah,
it's hard, right? We have to,
it
all
is.
that we can do is help them to navigate and provide counsel, but we can't force them to take our advice.
Right. I mean, one way around this would be, and who knows in these situations, well, no, not in Elon's situation, who needs a PR team? But, try to be proactive. I mean, we all knew that yesterday was coming. So, if you had a client or if you worked internally with an organization that was going to be saying something about it, start those conversations and, okay, what is our plan when this comes out? Depending which way it might go, will that change our message? And, let's consider all the fallout that might happen, after the fact. Is it going to be supported? Is it going to be negated? Well, what do we do with that? Or, do we do anything? How do we, there's all these things to consider. And I think, not to get too puffy about ourselves, but that points back to the value that wise cancel provides. And
Yeah.
I'm going to bunny trail like for 2 seconds, as I tend to do. But, there are times where I see listings for public relations jobs, where they're looking for someone in-house. They're just like, someone to write press releases. It's like, that's not the job.
Yeah.
There's so much more to that job. And I'll always remember hearing someone say, your PR person must have a seat at your table when the decisions are made. That C-suite, high-level executive access is key, because you are the one, sure, yeah, we're the one who's putting out the fire, but you can help your clients avoid a lot of pain. And,
Yeah, sure.
Maybe even innovate their businesses in ways they never saw, just because you have a different set of eyes and a different perspective and a different level of wisdom to bring. Especially in these situations where you don't want to make the wrong move, not because you look bad, but just because you don't want to do the wrong thing.
I also think another gold mine that gets untapped, and today is a good day. Like many communicators were advising, pause all social media because of what happened yesterday. We face this question with our own clients as well. And again, here is where you have to read the room. Mm-hmm. Who is your audience? Right. How are they feeling today? Are they in a mood for receiving normal content? Because some audiences are. Some audiences, it's business as usual. Some of that could just be that they're not affected by the issue. And so, they realize that moment is happening, but they want regular content. For others, it could be that they want regular content because they see this as a good thing and they want to normalize the day. So whatever the reasons are, in these times, I mean, our old advice was pause. It was just period. There was just no question about it. But I think what's really changed over this past year is that we've been confronted with being in crisis mode nearly all the time.
I was going to say, we've kind of coarsened to it. Not that we're hard-hearted, but you're like, well,
there's a crisis.
Life's got to go on. So
there's something terrible in the world every single day. Mm-hmm. And so pausing is never a bad decision. I mean, you can default to that, but I think the wisest decision is to really thoughtfully assess your audience and where they are and make decisions about not only what you say, but when you say it.
Right.
It's so I believe that is when it comes to social media and when it comes to these decisions, sometimes brands forget to even check in with their own people.
Yeah.
In your company, you have employees who really may be feeling something and they can, ask them like, first, what do you need from us as your employer to support you? How can we support you? How, listen to them, listen to their needs, share with them. We're looking at what we're doing externally. What are your thoughts on social media posts? Ask people inside of your own company, because we ignore them sometimes. And we ignore that even the people that are tasked with DEI, our DEI officers, please give them a hug. Even if it's a distant hug, give them words of encouragement, because so often the people who are victims of the problems are also tasked with fixing it from a company perspective. And I can tell you, as somebody who is involved in DEI work, sometimes that's a hard job. Even as a communicator yesterday, I really kept myself and my feelings out of it as I posted yesterday because I wanted the focus to be on the Floyd family.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted them to have that moment where they felt supported and heard and not inject how I was feeling into that. But be clear that as a Black woman in America, it was a really emotional moment for me too.
Yeah.
Especially someone who came from Los Angeles,
Mm-hmm.
who has
Yeah.
lived through the Rodney King trial, not only lived through the verdict, but the aftermath. I was at a Laker game when everything was announced and the city erupted and I was locked down with all of the other fans. And it was months before the city returned to some form of peace everywhere.
Right.
Not only that, I'm also somebody who doesn't understand what it's like to drive in your car
Yeah.
and not be afraid of the police
Yeah.
driving behind you or on the side of you. I don't know what that's like. I'm sorry.
No,
Honestly,
don't be sorry.
I have no idea. What does that feel like? I don't know. And
I feel stupid for
I hate the police.
No, but I feel stupid for getting emotional for you because it's like, here I am. But
no, I think it's something that we
I get
all
it.
should have some feeling about. But I honestly, I don't know what that feels like. I wonder, like, what does it feel like not to have a clenching in your belly that you're going to be harassed? And it's happened to me. You know, Michelle and I were talking about how this is the 5th year anniversary of Prince's death. And we were sharing some of our Prince moments. And one of my Prince moments was being a 16-year-old girl, getting to see him in concert at a skating rink. But that same night, having the police stop me and my friends, telling us we were in the wrong neighborhood.
I mean, who does
I
that?
was at Beverly Hills High School. You know, I was not me and my friends were at a concert like every other kid does
Teenager
every day.
Yeah.
So it had an impact on me. And I have friends and loved ones who are in law enforcement. I am not anti-police, but I have lived with that fear my whole life. So I don't know what it feels like. I don't know that experience. And I'm not alone. There's so many other people in this world who share that same experience. And so the verdict was something that many of us, you know, I think Sunny Hostin on the news yesterday, she broke down as well. And many of us had hoped that we would see a just verdict, but we didn't believe that we would, because over and over again, you know, even today I wake up and
what does that say?
An Ohio officer, you know, shot a teenager, and I don't know the whole story. So I am not reacting until I can fact check and get, but it's, you know,
but it doesn't look good.
Constant. Yeah. It
doesn't look good. And, you know, I there is something, like you say, I've got family who are police, you know, but here I am in little small town Podunk, right? So it does make a difference. And just as far as experiences.
Yes.
That's why it infuriates me when people blow this off as not. I'm like, it is real. It's like, you are so lucky that we live here in the middle of nowhere. Like, give me a break. You know, you can go and toss cars when the Phillies win the World Series, and that's all well and good. But my friends can't drive down the street, you know? Sorry, I'm going to get angry now. But I forgot where I was going with this. But yeah, no, I'm not, certainly not anti. But when you run up on a situation and why is your first reaction to shoot within seconds? There's something wrong with the way we're doing things.
But you know, as communicators too, I think, and it's, I got to tell you, you know, this past year, I have had to dig really deep for that balance.
I'm sure.
Where I'm putting aside personal feelings and really looking at things like seeing that Ohio shooting. Naturally, I had you know, just a very human reaction, but I also immediately went into communicator mode. Like, okay, I need to research this. You know, I'm not watching the video because I've learned not to do those triggering things, but I need to dig a little bit deeper and look at the facts beneath this and see, you know, read both sides of it.
Yeah.
And I
Oh, yeah.
think that as communicators, that's our job to help
Yeah.
ensure that we're not spreading mis or disinformation.
Right.
But I think we started this out by just, again, coming back that there are
Yeah.
people like me that are having an emotional reaction. Be sensitive to that, that we're all,
Absolutely.
that there are people that really are affected by what happened. Like yesterday, I ended work at 4:20 because I knew this
Right.
was coming, and I
Right.
knew, forget about concentration. Nothing is happening right now. I just need to sit in front of my television
Right.
and I
And
need to
kept,
watch it unfold.
yeah.
There were many people who were so unaware that it was even going on, and they were just working and sending communications, which I was ignoring because, but again, it just goes to show how we all live in kind of our own universe.
Right.
And
Because it
my
is
universe says, this is happening and this is important to me and I need to see. And I was on pins and needles while other people were sending emails and Slack messages and Skype messages and, text messages. And I'm like, I'm blocking it out right now because I can't.
yeah. No, I was refreshing Twitter furiously. I'm like, come on, you said between 4:30 and 5. I can't. And
Yeah.
yeah. And also as communicators, and again, we'll say this, and I'll say this too. It's like the police have a hard job. They are expected to fulfill so many roles. So
Agree.
many roles. And it's impossible. And it's not like they have 4 years of training to delve into this. So, we're not bashing, but you know what? If I did a garbage job at my job and it cost someone their lives, I'd expect to be held accountable. But this just brings
Yeah.
me back to, sorry, my point of, the original statement from the Minneapolis Police Department following Mr. Floyd's death. I don't know if you read that, Karen. It was shared a lot yesterday just to say, let's keep this in mind as communicators and people. Oh,
Yeah.
it was a medical incident. He was taken to the hospital where he died. And I'm thinking, I think his name might be the only true thing in this statement. Okay, maybe the name of the hospital too. But
Yeah.
it's like, come on, guys. Communicators, I know we all have mortgages and bills to pay, but we've got to stand up when we can,
I agree.
when you're being almost coerced into saying something untrue. Not, and maybe they weren't. Maybe they just said, all right, this is what we do.
I mean, I also would challenge us. It's Dr. Ali Rich. She tweeted out something this week about, and I love her. She's got this fantastic book, but she tweeted out that she is advocating for journalists to no longer share body cam footage and these videos of police shootings because it really does influence the type of story that gets told. And I think as communicators, these are the issues that we really should be digging deeper on. Sometimes we share things that are provocative, but is it really doing a disservice to the deeper issues? Is it really helping to look at the problem? And in some instances, it's pushing narratives that we're trying to fight against. And so
Right.
I just, this is a good time for us as PR people to really start to look at sort of the things that we've held true as standard operating procedure and think about ways in which even how we share information that we think is solving a problem can actually work against solving that problem and become part of it.
Right. Right. And giving a shout out to the journalists who have covered this trial, incredibly hard work that you've been doing.
Oh, I mean, the journalists who have covered the pandemic, I am not even sure how they are still writing full sentences and making sense.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for their deep dive reporting. I mean, people like Liz Sabo, who is a health reporter, and she's fantastic. And it's just, we forget that this time period has taken a toll on many of us. And so it is an opportunity for communicators to really shine during this time and to really play a critical role in moving these conversations forward in a positive way.
Right.
But it also, I think, is probably the toughest time that I can remember in my career.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. sure, we've dealt with pandemics before. We've dealt, World War II, this, that, and the other. But at no other time on Earth have we been pummeled with information. Has information been, can fly around in an instant, and you really have to be discerning, more than ever in a
Agree.
nanosecond. So, if so, let's all just take it, take a beat or two. Like you said, fact
Yeah.
check this, that, and the other. Because yeah, as soon as I saw that happened in Columbus, I thought, are you serious? What did we have? 30 seconds before the cycle started again? Are you kidding me? You know,
Yeah.
and and all of this is complex stuff. It's certainly not,
It truly
it's
is.
not easy.
Unfortunately, information itself has become so politicized that I
Yes.
think it makes our jobs a lot more difficult. And
Uh,
realizing that within your clients, within those organizations, you're going to have polar opposites on the political spectrum.
Absolutely.
And I think it's sad that everything has become about a political viewpoint,
Right? We can't
but
just have
as
facts anymore.
we can't just have facts.
No.
But as communicators, I think that more than ever, we really have to educate our clients on how to do research properly. We have to help them to move past their biases
Mm-hmm.
in order to take a broader viewpoint and
Mm-hmm.
really, again, to focus in on their audiences and be aware that we've got to stop digging our heels into, these political ideologies and remember that we're all human beings.
Right. And I think, we've kind of lost the plot these past years of that. It's like,
Yeah,
okay, I own company X. I might believe certain things, but my company is my company and it serves people who need my product. That's it. Certain things that, not that you shouldn't remain true to yourself, but even if you're the spokesperson for said company, talk about your company. And I think we've a lot of elements out there have lost that, or they choose to use it to whatever advantage they think they're getting. But misinformation is enemy number one, and we know that. We know that that's being used against us, um, by
absolutely. I mean, I
people.
also, I am so proud to be involved in a committee called Voices for Everyone through PRSA.
Oh,
And
fantastic!
we have a website. It's called Voices for Everyone. So please look for that. And it's the number 4, because what we are attempting to do there is to equip and empower public relations professionals to be able to model civil discourse,
Mm,
to be armed with how to educate people on how to dig for credibility, to
mm-hmm,
really be part of the solution around
mm-hmm,
eliminating or at least diminishing mis and disinformation. And so
mm-hmm,
it's a great hub of resources, and we will be adding more case studies and tools and tips, but I would encourage, everyone to visit that as well. And for me, if you are somebody, and I feel like a lot of our audience really, really was personally impacted by yesterday. But if you're somebody who has all the feels, please keep in mind today, reach out for support,
mm-hmm.
that tend to yourself, take care of yourself. But in your
Yeah,
role of communicator, it's so important that we not view it from that emotional lens. We've got to put on that PR hat and we have to make the right calls. It doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect. Sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And
sure.
more importantly, don't bow, have a very distinct process for helping your clients to make these decisions about whether or not to get involved in conversations, because there's so much external pressure these days from the public that is waiting for somebody to post. And if you don't post, they want to cancel you. But then God forbid that you should post and say the wrong thing, even
Right,
with the right intention, and you're still going to get canceled.
right.
And so we can't allow that external pressure to impact our good judgment and what we know, because this is our area of expertise, what we know to be the right thing to do. And that's going to be individualized by each client. It's not a blanket decision that we can make. And again, I think that we're all, sharpening our crisis communications chops. Thank you. 2020, 2021. We thought 2020 was over, but this seems to be 2021, the sequel. God
Yeah.
help us all.
I mean, I think your clients know deep down what being true to themselves is, and that's key here. It's your companies that you're dealing with, they have a tone, they have a voice, they have an ethos of who they are. So, and people are going to be able to tell if you're doing something that's disingenuous. It's like, I don't need to hear from you on every little thing if I know you're not in the conversation to begin with. So,
Yeah.
of course, this is all things you smarties out there know. So, but yeah, please be good to yourselves and, open the dialogue. We need to talk about these things. And it's not easy, but we need to do it. And, now more than ever, we need to be allies for each other. It's interesting. It harkens back because I'm such an 80s nerd. And, but my eyes were so open. You're an impressionable teenager about the world. You want the world to be awesome. But in talking about, whip out your phone and record things, because my God, if that 17-year-old girl had not done that, and it reminds me of in the mid 80s when Peter Gabriel was very involved with Amnesty International. And that was one of his main projects, was to provide video cameras for people in these hotspots, where people were getting imprisoned. And I forget what they called it, but I thought, we are watching you. People need to know that accountability is a thing. And no one's perfect, but, don't be afraid to stand up and do the right thing. If anything, take a lesson from, and I don't know if you saw all the people that testified, from the EMT who wanted to try and help save his life, to, everyone saying like, no, this is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. And so there are good people out there. We just
I agree.
We just need to talk a little more and open our mouths.
As our dear friend and very smart professional, Chip Griffin, is saying, if people spent more time talking with each other and listening, a lot might improve. And we completely agree with that. And we want you to know, solos, that if you need a place where people listen to you, we invite you, if you are not already connected to the Solo PR Pro community, to join. I find it to be a very balanced, compassionate group of people who are not so tied to whatever their viewpoints and perspectives are about how we solve problems in the world, but they listen, and they're compassionate, and they're caring. And it's always a safe place to ask questions, to get support. It helps to have a sounding board, particularly in these times when we're navigating thorny issues. And, you may not have a big team of people to bounce things off. And even if you do have a team of people, it certainly helps to get a little more perspective outside of that particular silo, because sometimes you're a team and you can start to groove in the same language and you can miss things. And so it helps to bring in other voices. And remember that diversity is more than diversity of gender and color. It's a diversity of thought as well. Let's not forget that, and let's not leave people out of the conversation that can really help us to uncover our own blind spots and biases. And, the better that we are, the better that we can serve our clients. And I truly do feel like we have an important role to play in society at large, and helping to move us back towards a place of civil discourse. We can do this, one client at a time, one communication at a time, one social media post at a time. And they feel like your impact is so small, but all of those ripples are going to make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we thank you for being with us today. It was good to dig deep, and we hope you found some value in it. Maybe some inspiration. Maybe it's helping you steel yourself for the days ahead. All of the above. If you have found any value of this, please subscribe. We'd love to have you in the That Solo Life family, and do check out Solo PR Pro at soloprpro.com. And until next time, thanks for listening to That Solo Life.